Watch right now on the Front News Project. Colombians are fighting for Ukraine, and North Korean soldiers are once again being used up on the front lines. Heli shelling of Kiev, Odessa, and Dnipro. Could 2,000 drones in a single night really be coming very soon? And Ukrainian partisans have also carried out sabotage on the Russian railway. You have to see this. Fiery, intense, and blazing footage from the front lines. Watch it right now. It's the fourth year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings. This is Front News. I'm Volodymyr Tymoshenko. For the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war, brought to you by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then let's get started. And we're starting right away with the most terrifying news. 2 people have been killed, 15 wounded. Among them is a 12-year-old boy. These are the consequences of a combined air attack by the Russians, which lasted for more than 10 hours in total. During this time, the aggressor state launched about 500 aerial targets at Ukraine, aeroballistic Kinjal missiles, Caliber cruise missiles launched from the Black Sea, and Kh-101 missiles from Tuesday 95 and Tuesday 160 strategic bombers. 1 person was killed and 8 were injured. These are the consequences of the shelling of Kiev. Once again, the Lukyanivska metro station was damaged. An apartment in a nearby residential complex caught fire after debris from a Shahed drone fell on it. All the details of this horror are in the report by our colleagues from the television news service.
The entrance to the Lukyanivska metro station was destroyed by an explosion today. This is a place where a huge number of people regularly spend the night. And once again, the entrance here has been destroyed. This entrance wasn't in use, but the neighboring ones, as you can see, have simply been blown apart. Right now you can hear the sound of glass, and they're cleaning up over there. This is one of the main shelters in this area. At that moment, there were people inside.
At precisely that very moment,
we ran into the metro to escape the Shaheds, and at that moment we hadn't even managed to get downstairs yet when pieces of the roof started falling.
Pieces of the roof?
I was in the metro, had just come out onto the main alley, and saw dust and small debris flying. Everyone started coming down.
I can hear the metro trains running. This station will be bypassed today. I'm walking up the escalator. This is my neighborhood. I can say that even though we've seen a lot, tonight was one of the loudest nights. During the day, people usually sell flowers and vegetables from their gardens here, but now everything is like this.
It hit really hard.
Were people scared?
Well, somewhat, because I live in this building.
I come to this coffee shop every morning after heavy shelling in Kiev, because this is a place where the windows are constantly blown out and they keep getting repaired. Last night was the 6th strike, as a result of which we see the windows have been blown out for the 6th time. But the slogan of this cafe is, "We have no windows, but we have unbreakable will." I hope they'll make us coffee here today. And this is something smoldering, burning, ash the remains of a Shahed. But it's better not to breathe it in at the very least. These large metal sheets landed near the church of the Moscow Patriarchate. These are the consequences of a strike on a residential building in the Shevchenkivsky district. We can see that several apartments have burned out and several balconies have been destroyed. Did you go to the shelter today?
Today we went down for the 2nd time. We were already near the elevator, right in the corridor of the apartment where the drone hit.
These are the kinds of debris lying in the yard of the building that was hit by the Shahed. For the umpteenth time this morning, we are forced to go down to the shelter again due to the missile threat, together with the residents of the building that caught fire today after being hit by a Shahed. How incredibly difficult was the entire night for you today? Could you please tell us about it?
As tough as always, to the maximum. We've already lost count of how many explosions there were.
This is not the first time this residential complex has been hit. Previously, other sections here have suffered. There have already been 2 fatalities, 1 woman and 1 man. And that was from different missile strikes. But today, fortunately, there were no casualties in this particular complex. As a result of the strike on the residential building, a fire broke out on the first floor. As you can see, the fire spread to the second and third floors. The total area of the fire was 150 square meters. At present, rescuers have contained the fire and are dismantling and dousing the structures. Here, unfortunately, we can say that there is one injured person and one person was rescued. Her name is Maria. She was named after the airplane, which is why she is so brave and indomitable. She would rush at the Shaheds, knocking them down with her barking. So I think maybe that's what saved us. Thank you so much, Mia, for truly always protecting us. There are shattered windows everywhere, and you can hear the clanging of metal. But people already have the opportunity to return home to their apartments. It used to be such a beautiful, tidy entrance.
It will be even better.
You don't lose your optimism?
Everything will be fine. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes.
And now, an analysis of the operational situation on the much-suffering Pokrovsk direction of the front. The bloody rampage of the enemy's army continues here as well. On the Pokrovsk direction, clashes of varying intensity began 29 times today near the settlements of Udachne, Novoekonomichne, Lisivka, Zverevo towards Novukrayinka, Pokrovsk, Dachne, Milnorad, and Mayak. 2 battles are still ongoing. Yes, the situation at the front is indeed difficult. For example, in the Sumy region, the Russians have come right up to the strategic highway that leads from Sumy to the north. Ukraine's key problem is a shortage of personnel, but war correspondent Andriy Tsaplienko found out that recruiting foreigners from Latin America has yielded successful results for the 47th Brigade, which is fighting specifically in the Sumy region. Watch the next segment to learn about the Colombian units in this brigade.
The Rukach unit in the 47th Brigade is called the Colombian unit. The vast majority of its soldiers hold Colombian passports. While the new recruits from South America are training at the range, their more experienced compatriots are driving the occupiers out of Ukrainian land in the Sumy region. Right now, the guys from the Colombian unit are practicing what they usually do on the front line storming Russian positions. The positions are imaginary, but the bullets and grenades are real.
Grenades. Boom!
On the real front line in the Sumy region, the Latin Americans in Ukrainian uniforms cleared several enemy positions and captured quite a few trophies.
Russian. No, I can't always expect that everything will go well, but I always hope in God so that he can get me out of every mission alive.
Formally, the movement is considered a company, but in reality there are already enough assault troops to allow for internal rotation if necessary. Some are fighting, some are resting, some are training. Can we talk about numbers? How many have you brought to Ukraine?
Look, we've already brought in more than 1,000, actually closer to 2,000, something like that.
Hamlet, an ethnic Armenian, the commander and organizer of the unit, never questioned whether there should be a foreign company in the 47th Brigade. He just went ahead and did it. The commander doesn't trouble himself with other Hamlet-like questions either.
Each of us has our own motivation and personal interest. I didn't ask, I'm not interested. They fight, they do everything as they should. The rest doesn't interest me what their motivation is and so on.
But that's what interests us. What made you travel thousands of kilometers to come and defend Ukraine? Among the many reasons is the financial one.
I'm Colombian, I'm 27 years old. My military career as a professional soldier began in Colombia. I do this work to help the Ukrainian people as well as to help my family and provide myself with an income. Well, money is a very important factor because we need money to meet our needs. On the other hand, this kind of work is a calling. I enjoy doing it.
But the reason for choosing this is not just about money.
For us, the enemy is Russia. Is Russia an enemy for you personally, or is it just a situational enemy? I consider them enemies. I don't understand why this aggression is happening when civilians are dying. I grew up surrounded by violence, and I've also experienced bad things in my own country, things that we Colombians are not proud of. We have already lived through war, and for us, it's quite normal to take up arms. This is very common in Colombia.
La violencia violence, that's what this guy calls their civil war, in which the government fought against communist groups. Most Colombian soldiers who joined the 47th Brigade believe that the Partisans were supported by Russia.
This has always been known. Always it supported illegal left-wing armed groups. That's how it's always been.
This guy from Peru goes by the call sign Stubborn. 15 years of service in a Peruvian special unit can't even be compared to what he saw in 8 months in Ukraine.
Since this is a battlefield, you can't expect everything to always go according to plan. I always tell the truth. We know this is war and that things don't always look rosy. That's why we have to be honest both about the benefits for the servicemen and the tasks we're carrying out here.
The truth is, here in Ukraine, there is no safe place anywhere. A Shahed drone is flying over us.
Everyone, get down.
An explosion goes off somewhere nearby. Colombians have never seen a war like this at home. The Colombian unit, well, let's call it Colombian for convenience because there are guys from other countries serving here too. This isn't just assault infantry, it's mechanized infantry. The fire support units have these formidable Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, as well as M113 armored personnel carriers. And there are already trained crews for this complex equipment. This driver mechanic is originally from Zimbabwe, a country whose politicians openly declare their support for Russia in the war against Ukraine. Perhaps that's why at first the guy had to break through a wall of distrust in Ukraine.
People didn't really share their experience with me or explain how to do things properly. So at first it was hard to learn. But in this unit, the attitude is impartial and the commander here is a great man. He doesn't look down on people and gives them a chance to prove themselves. Thank you, Commander with a capital C. You have no idea how much it means to me to know that you respect me. May my God always bless you. May you have a wonderful night. Rest until tomorrow, Commander. Well, that's just poetry. So I have the whole phone.
The commander is confident that foreigners, especially Colombians, can become a significant asset for our armed forces.
We have here
Look, based on the applications we've received over the past month, we could easily recruit at least 1,000 volunteers who want to come at the very least. As soon as we buy the tickets, they'll all come.
In Colombia, attitudes toward volunteers are mixed. There is no specific law in the country that prohibits Colombians from serving in the military in Ukraine. However, left-wing politicians are slowing down this kind of recruitment, citing an international convention. At the same time, Colombian military leaders acknowledge the direct benefit for Colombia because it's new recruits who go to Ukraine and a modern, well-trained army that returns home.
Colombia receives a fully trained army and soldiers who understand what war is and all the modern aspects that come with it. He has seen everything, he understands everything, he knows it all. The army itself becomes stronger as a result.
Serving in the Ukrainian armed forces gives Colombians the opportunity to rapidly climb the ranks of their military careers back home. But first, they need to come out victorious in the war in Ukraine, or at least drive the Russians out of the Sumy region.
And now it's time to analyze the operational situation on the Kramatorsk and Toretsk fronts. The enemy is becoming more ferocious here as well. On the Kramatorsk front, the enemy attacked 6 times in the area of Bilahora and towards Pretekine. One clash is still ongoing. On the Toretsk front, the invaders attacked 8 times in the areas of Delivka, Romanivka, Alexander Kaliniv, and towards Katarinivka and Pleshivka. 2 clashes are still ongoing. 1 person was killed and at least 6 more were injured as a result of the night attack on Odessa. The Ukrainian Pearl by the Sea was subjected to one of the most massive Shahed drone attacks. More than 24 attack drones struck from 2 directions at once, approaching at high altitudes so that air defense would not have time to shoot them down. As a result, there were several direct hits on apartment buildings, large fires, and the city was shrouded in smoke. Journalist Serhiy Sachuk from SN will report on the consequences of the Russian terrorist attack.
At midnight, Odessa was shaken by powerful explosions. A large swarm of Shaheds simultaneously attacked one of the city's residential districts.
There were about 25 of them over Odessa. More than 10 flew one after another near our house, and the Shahed hit the 8th floor. But you can see that from the other side. It flew straight into the building, all the windows shattered, and then one after another, literally, less than a minute passed on after another, they all hit right next to the house.
Here is the apartment where the drone flew in and exploded inside with an almost 100-kilogram warhead. The only thing that saved the building from collapsing was that it was made of brick, so only one of the apartments was completely destroyed. However, an elderly woman ended up trapped under the rubble.
First, there was an explosion. We got up, I woke up, and then the second one, it hit right here. So I ran into the bathroom. I ran into the bathroom when it hit right here. And that was it. And everything started burning. That's it. Well, everyone started trying to save themselves. We ran. Grandma was trapped right here. She was shouting, "Help!" She was alive, but by the time we got down, the rescuers had arrived, but they pulled her out already dead.
Because of the spilled fuel, first the balcony caught fire and then the flames quickly spread to the neighboring building. People ended up trapped in their apartments on the upper floors.
Apartments from the 6th to the 9th floors were burning. The fire was extinguished by rescuers together with volunteers. 5 people were rescued from the burning apartments. Many people were in various psychological states, so psychologists from the State Emergency Service and the National Police were working on site. Residents also gave keys to rescuers and other emergency services so they could evacuate pets from the damaged apartments.
I couldn't get out either. There was smoke here, and they told me, quick, get to the balcony and put it on me. Well, not a respirator, but to give me oxygen. And they let me out. The only thing I held onto was my phone. I didn't take anything else. And now I have a burn here on my arm.
People were running out into the street themselves, and rescuers were helping them. Ambulances arrived at the site of the attack. Medical personnel provided assistance to the injured. Many people had cuts from glass that shattered and flew everywhere after the explosions. As soon as it got light outside, utility workers arrived at the scene and began cleaning up the area around the damaged building. An operations center was also set up nearby where people can process documents to receive compensation for the damage caused by the Russian terrorist attack.
And now, let's analyze the current situation on the Kupiansk and Lyman fronts. Let's be honest, this is yet another sacred target for Putin and his entire pack. Accordingly, the situation here is also extremely tense. On the Kupiansk front, our soldiers repelled 2 enemy attacks in the areas of Holubivka and Zeleny High. On the Lyman front, there were 16 clashes near the settlements of Novimir, Karpove, Kolodyazi, and Ampolivka, as well as Torske, and in the direction of the settlements of Serebryanka, Shredny, Shandriholov, and Hryhorivka. 7 clashes are still ongoing at this moment. Yes, in the Kharkiv region, the Russian army has launched an offensive on a new section of the front. Its goal is to divert the attention of Ukrainian reserve from the Kupiansk direction. Meanwhile, Ukrainian partisans from the Atesh group carried out a successful sabotage operation on the Russian railway, which has seriously complicated the occupiers' military logistics. For more on what is happening at the front and around, let's see our military overview.
In the Rostov region, train traffic was halted, affecting both passenger trains and military convoys. Ukrainian drones successfully attacked the railway hub in Kamenolomnya, a logistics hub used by the Russian army to supply equipment and weapons to the front was damaged. Trains passed through this station on their way to the occupied territories of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the partisan movement Atesh struck an important logistics hub of the occupiers. The sabotage was carried out near Tula. There, a relay cabinet responsible for controlling traffic on that section was destroyed. The arson temporarily disrupted the supply of ammunition and weapons in the Kharkiv and Sumy directions. In the latter direction, thanks to active military operations, the Ukrainian armed forces are pushing out the occupiers. Pro-Russian channels are complaining about this.
In the Sumy region, we continue to monitor Kondratovka. In conditions of a shortage of people and supplies, our guys are holding out as best they can, defending the last 15 to 20 households in the village, where we still haven't let the Ukrainian armed forces in. There is still a chance that we can get the guys out of this hell alive.
The Russian soldiers have long wanted to strike at Sumy, but in reality the exact opposite is happening. The Ukrainian armed forces are pushing out Russian troops and striking logistics with drones.
We're all waiting for amphibies to start terrorizing Sumy, but the Ukrainians are hitting our logistics just as deep. The Novoivanovka-Sverlikovo road is deep in the rear, seemingly about 20 kilometers from the front line. But that doesn't stop the Ukrainian armed forces from maintaining fire control over this road with ordinary cheap drones costing just $500 each. About 10 pieces of equipment were lost on this supply route just yesterday. And that's the main artillery for the entire garrison in Yunakovka. Those laying out anti-drone nets have a lot of work to do on this road, but they should have been sent here the day before yesterday.
The main tactic for the offensive remains assaults by small infantry groups. The Ukrainian armed forces are responding with the mass use of FPV drones, in which they have both numerical and qualitative superiority. On the Kharkiv front, they are trying to push through the Ukrainian forces with sheer numbers.
Russia has opened another front in the Kharkiv region to draw our reserves away from the Kupiansk direction. Overall, the situation is not very favorable for us. The long stretch of the border allows the enemy to carry out such actions almost along the entire line. Such fires, due to a lack of reserves, have to be put out by bringing in forces from brigades that are already carrying out combat missions directly on the front line.
A huge number of anti-drone nets are being forced to be installed in the Zaporizhia region. This is the settlement of Kharkiv. On this front, the Russian army has not achieved any success, so it terrorizes civilians and the military with drones. In this direction, the occupiers constantly throw their personnel into pointless attacks without water or food.
For 21 days, yes, we were there almost without food or water. Many of our people died, that's it. Not many, but for our small unit, these are very significant losses.
Donetsk region is the main target of the Russian army. These are shots of drones from the 59th Brigade destroying yet another group of occupiers in the Pokrovsk direction. They keep coming at us 24/7.
The main targets of the summer campaign are Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka in the Donetsk region. Russian forces are trying to encircle these cities and cut off their supply lines to force the Ukrainian armed forces to withdraw from them. Mass assaults did not work. The pace of the summer offensive by Putin's troops turned out to be slower than in the fall of 2024. In the first half of the summer, the Russian army captured 857 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. According to Deep State, the pace of advance was higher than in the spring, but still does not reach the levels of last fall. In November alone, 730 square kilometers were captured.
Many civilian publications report that the summer offensive by Russian forces has been the deadliest for the occupying army since the beginning of the war. According to The Economist, more than 30,000 Russian soldiers have been killed since the beginning of May. And that's according to the most conservative estimates. In addition, the Dnepropetrovsk region suffered a massive drone attack. There are dead and wounded. Explosions were heard in Kryvyi Rih, Dnipro, and Nikopol. TSN correspondent Oya Pavlovska will tell and show you more about the consequences of the night and morning shelling.
Explosion!
Explosions one after another. The occupiers attacked the Dnepropetrovsk region with dozens of Shaheds in several waves. Explosions echoed throughout the night in Dnipro and in the morning in Kryvyi Rih as well. A column of smoke in Kryvyi Rih, a woman was wounded. In Dnipro, they are still dealing with the fires from the night.
Everything's burning.
In the regional center, 1 person was killed and 5 were wounded, 3 of them men, all in serious condition. Fires broke out at industrial sites. Serhiy, the owner of an auto repair shop, saw the attack on surveillance cameras and rushed to save the station and his neighbor's property.
We're helping to figure out what's where here so we can localize the fire as quickly as possible. There were flammable materials back there. I warned them about that. We are entrepreneurs. So what's here? Metal plastic windows? I don't know, an auto repair shop. Well, everything is usual. No, this isn't a military facility. People make sports equipment for pull-ups. Some are transport carriers.
Warehouses and businesses have been destroyed, and an office building has been smashed. Here, they are trying to clear away the destroyed property.
We're taking out whatever we can. We help however we can. It's scary here. A guy was here at night. There were 12 strikes. In short, it's frightening. The guys are terrified, but they're alive.
In Dnipro and Kryvyi Rih, they are still dealing with the aftermath of the massive attack. At the same time, defenders shot down more than 24 Shaheds that the enemy sent toward the region.
And now we move to the Novopavlivka direction of the front. The enemy continues its military terror here as well. In the Novopavlivka direction, the aggressor tried to advance 9 times in the areas of the settlements of Zvezda, Podubne, Mirne, Dakhne, and toward the settlements of Oleksandrivrad and Voskresenka. 5 clashes are still ongoing. As you have already seen, the Russian Federation continues to launch hundreds of UAVs and dozens of missiles at Ukraine. On the night of the 21st of July, Russian forces launched a massive attack on Ukraine. According to a German military general, in the future, the occupiers will be able to launch up to 2,000 drones simultaneously. But Russia will face a response. Ukraine will strike at Russian logistics routes. Britain is also developing a stealth fighter capable of striking targets deep within the Russian Federation. You can learn more about all of this in the following report. Drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles were flying. Russia launched yet another massive attack on Ukraine. The epicenters of the strikes were Kiev, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Kharkiv. In the capital, one person was killed. Over the course of the night, the aggressor country launched a total of 426 drones and 24 missiles at Ukraine.
The occupiers are using the Ukrainian tactic of striking with UAVs. This is what in Russian classification is called the caravan tactic. In other words, several waves aimed at exhausting air defense systems.
In the future, the occupiers plan to launch up to 2,000 drones at Ukrainian cities simultaneously, according to a German general. According to him, Moscow is actively expanding its production capacity in order to use UAVs extensively in the war, and this could become a serious challenge for Ukraine's air defense system.
It should be noted that the key phrase here is plan. It's not the number of UAVs, but specifically this phrase that matters. In other words, this is in the plans of the Russian Federation. Moreover, the German side does not specify whether these are short-term or long-term plans of the Russian Federation. And such statements by the German general should be regarded as an element of political and informational pressure on NATO allies at a time when support for Ukraine's defense forces is being intensified, specifically in terms of providing air defense systems.
In turn, Ukraine will focus on intensifying strikes against the occupiers' logistical capabilities. Everything in Russia that contributes to the war effort must suffer from deep strikes, long-range attacks by Ukrainian strike drones, Zelensky stated, adding that as early as next week, the country will sign additional contracts that will allow for increased deliveries of the necessary UAVs for the front and for the protection of the population.
Today's attack by Ukrainian UAVs once again forced the Russian side to implement the carpet plan and close the airspace over almost the entire European part of the Russian Federation. Preliminary estimates of the damage exceed 10 billion rubles. As we can see, the Ukrainian side has found the Achilles heel of the Russian economy, regardless of the effectiveness of the final strike by Ukrainian UAVs. The Russian side is forced to implement the carpet plan.
Meanwhile, in Russia, a new superweapon has been unveiled, the combat vehicle Typhoon PVO, which already underwent serial testing back in 2024 and has now entered mass production. This air defense system, which of course has no analogs in the world, is planned by the occupiers to be deployed to protect bridges and factories.
The development of these. Typhoon PVO took the Russian military industrial complex about 15 years. Now, this is a real indicator of the state of the Russian defense industry. It should be noted that this so-called know-how features, well, exclusively bulletproof protection of Russian design. That is, apparently, we're primarily talking about using this Typhoon PVO to cover rear facilities in the operational rear of Russian occupation forces.
But it seems even this wonder machine won't be able to help Russia. The United Kingdom, together with its partners, is working on the development of a new flagship 6th-generation fighter jet, which, in the event of a war between Russia and NATO, will be able to reach military targets on Russian territory undetected by air defense systems and attack them without refueling, according to the Telegraph.
When specific and firm deadlines are officially announced, unlike the Russian side, which has unfortunately cancelled several previously announced and highly anticipated aircraft projects, European and Japanese manufacturers consistently deliver tangible and concrete results, demonstrating their commitment and reliability. Therefore, Russia and China, we have to face a serious challenge when it comes to suppressing air defense systems directly in the rear areas within their own countries.
The UK is not the only one ready to present new developments. Artificial intelligence is planned to be integrated into the German IRIS-T SLM surface-to-air missile system. If this is done, it would be logical to test such a weapon on the front lines in Ukraine, according to Western media.
The Ukrainian side insists that the innovative developments of NATO countries' weapon systems should be tested in real combat conditions on Ukrainian territory. This provides the opportunity to A, obtain test protocols in the shortest possible time, B, exchange technologies accordingly, and C, increases the capabilities of Ukraine's defense forces to use the latest NATO weaponry. In other words, it's a mutually beneficial exchange.
That's all for today. But very soon on the Front News program, you'll see new, unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war gathered so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.